All right. Hello, Internet. Welcome into Week 10 of the National Football League. This is Cowboys Countdown to Kickoff. I'm Sean Bass. He's David Newbury, and the Cowboys at 6-2, playing at Lambeau Field today against a 3-6 Packers squadron as Mike McCarthy makes his triumphant return to Packerland, a place where he coached for, 12, 13 years? And, there's a definite storyline there. So, first off, thanks for being here. Thanks for we have Stars Hockey on the airwaves right now. We are on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube, and you will also check back here at halftime as we have both who do we have at halftime today? It's let's see, Jake and Donovan going to be giving you halftime. Then, of course, Jake, Donovan, and Chubb have the postgame show. So settle in for the next hour. We're going to break everything down. We're going to have a stadium report from David Moore live from Lambeau. Maybe one of the hardline that's on the trip will give us a call.
Maybe.
Because they all, both Corby, Bob, Davey, and Mino made their way up, so we'll just have to wait and see on that. But, look, Cowboys taking on a Packers team that is not playing good football at all. I mean, at all.
No, definitely not. And it's maybe one of the biggest surprises of the NFL season. We've had positive surprises to the likes of the Giants and Jets, maybe the Dolphins to some degree, even though they made a lot of moves to put themselves in position to have the season that they're having. But I don't believe anyone saw Green Bay with this record, especially with Aaron Rodgers playing in every game. If they were if you would have told me this was their record, I would have thought he was hurt.
Yeah, and, there was, the level of freak out up there has to be pretty high, because I was reading some things this week where people are seriously discussing benching Aaron Rodgers in favor for Jordan Love, which I don't think you're going to get better if that's the case. You're missing Devontae Adams, and no receiver has really stepped up thus far for Green Bay. And we'll have the whole hour to break things down as we will. And let's just start off with just some big narratives heading into this one. And the biggest, of course, is Mike McCarthy going back to Green Bay.
Absolutely.
And to hear him get emotional as he got early in the week when David Moore was asking him questions about actually, it wasn't David Moore. It was another beat reporter asking him questions about going home. And, he was talking about where his kids were born and the family aspect of things, and he got really choked up.
Yeah, it was his first head coaching position. He came from the 49ers, where he had a lot of success, and there was at first some tension between Rodgers and him because of the whole he wanted Alex Smith, not Aaron Rodgers thing. And it always felt like their relationship was walking a tightrope. But for McCarthy personally, this is the milestone. Every one of his significant milestones, personally and professionally, came in Green Bay.
Right.
Significant amount of time there. He had a lot of success, won a lot of games.
Coached there longer than Lombardi.
Yeah, I mean,
which is kind of crazy to think about, but it's true.
It is. It's really amazing. And, he's I really feel like we've benefited from this game, meaning the fans, because I feel like we really got to see a little bit of the man McCarthy this week. And he really kind of showed why his team plays hard for him. He's a very likable guy.
Oh, yeah.
And, you can see that he definitely cares about that city of Green Bay. And if he wins today, he'll become the third coach in NFL history to have beaten every single team in the NFL. And that's
no small feat.
Yeah, it's a nice accomplishment, even though that, I guess, now that we haven't had 32 teams for that long, but it's still notable.
And we had this discussion earlier this week on Norman Donovan from 10 to noon, and it's weird how, as much as the Cowboy fan really sort of at times detests the things that come out of the mouth of Jerry and Stephen Jones, it is weird how the fan base at large really takes their cues from those two, especially Jerry, because Jerry this offseason was, casting doubt on Mike McCarthy's job security, talking about Dan Quinn maybe being a successor. Obviously, the whole Sean Payton thing has just lingered for a long time. We've gotten into this with Bob on the pregame a few weeks ago, and it's just Mike McCarthy's done a fantastic job, and I feel like this is the first time in years that football has been the first priority. Now, again, this is coming off the heels of a wacky-ass offseason as far as all the crazy things that could have happened to this franchise off the field, but it really feels like under Mike McCarthy, football is first, and that's and look, they can put the dagger to the Packers season today. They're clearly behind in that division, behind Minnesota. They're not going to win it, and with every passing week and every poor performance Green Bay has, they fall further and further out of the wild card picture. And I guess that's why you're getting those narratives of, hey, let's see what Jordan Love has to offer, which still seems kind of crazy.
It does seem crazy, and it's just amazing that we are here right now with the Green Bay Packers. But with going back to McCarthy and the narrative for this season, you're right. There are a lot of talks about Odell Beckham and things. So Jerry's definitely going to keep that going. But I do feel like there was a little bit of pressure under McCarthy before the game against Chicago, because when Dak came back, there was some concerns about how poor the offense looked.
Right.
And you know what? I get it. I completely understand it. But I feel like that dominant performance from the offense that week really quieted things down, and everyone's like, okay.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Like, yeah, they're better than they're 6-2, and the style of play matches the record. A lot of times, like, a lot of people don't buy into the Vikings because really don't know what they are. And
it's easy to not buy into Kirk Cousins.
Exactly. But now, you're saying, okay, this team does look pretty good, and if this quarterback is going to play like he did 2 weeks ago, then there's a lot to be excited about in Dallas right now.
And much like in that rout 2 weeks ago against the Chicago Bears at AT&T Stadium, Zeke Elliott out, dealing with a knee issue. We just got word a few minutes ago that Zeke is going to be inactive again today, so it's another Tony Pollard start. Malik Davis is going to spell him as the number 2 running back, and I'm very okay with that. Now, yes, I would love to have a healthy Zeke. I think Zeke's been an effective runner in certain instances this year for sure. He's had a level of productivity, but after watching Pollard go for 131 and really look like a number 1 bell cow running back, I don't have too many worries. Now, of course, pass protection is something we always worry about with Tony Pollard, but to see this offense put up 42 points with Zeke out against Chicago, who's got a decent defense, and going up against a decent Green Bay defense, you should expect similar results. Now, it's going to be cold. It's going to be in the 30s at kick, maybe in the 20s once the sun goes down. This is going to be a very run-oriented game, so I am curious to see how Pollard holds up as the lead horse, because there was the discussion this week that maybe he only has a certain amount of snaps he can take in a game, and their running backs coach on the bye week said they want to keep Pollard around 30, so I'm curious to see how not just the touches break down today, but the total snaps.
I'm definitely there, because one of the things that Pollard does, I think, is underappreciated with this offense, and it really shows up on the tape. When Zeke is in the game, teams play a little bit more of this too high look, shell look, where they're defending the pass, adjusting to the run.
Mm-hmm.
When Pollard's in the game, those safeties have to creep down, get closer to the box, because he's a bigger run threat. You want to tackle him, obviously, as soon as you can, and it's helping out the pass game. It's starting to open things up a little bit, and we saw that in the play action. I mean, Dallas was, 6-9 on third down last week?
Yeah, they really bounced back big on third down against Chicago.
And the other thing that I just loved was Dak ran the ball.
Right.
And it wasn't scrambles, it was called runs. It was the first time that he's had multiple carries that were called up since 2018.
Yeah, and I think that's something you're going to see a lot of RPO today, really from both teams. I know Aaron Rodgers isn't the scrambler that maybe he once was, but I don't know if you watched the game last week against Detroit. Rodgers made a lot of plays with his feet. Green Bay runs a lot of RPOs. I'm guessing Dallas is going to dust some of that off today against this Green Bay defense, and we'll talk about the matchup plenty. But as far as the narratives this week that I don't want to get lost as we break this one down is Odell Beckham Jr. is, I guess, one. The Cowboys are on his list of teams to go to. The Packers were, I guess, at one point, as were the Rams. But those two teams have really fallen off as far as the playoff picture goes, and he wants to go to a contender. And according to some reports today, OBJ is going to make his decision at some point this week. I thought it was interesting that you had Parsons speak candidly saying, hey, let's go after him. I mean, he was tweeting at Odell Beckham Jr. saying, let's go win this bowl. And then Ezekiel Elliott, who is a huge part of this offense, is openly campaigning via the media. I think that's not nothing. That's a team that feels like they are a playmaker away from taking another step, especially from the offensive side.
I agree with you, and I think everyone knows that Odell Beckham is coming off a significant injury, but he is the type of player that is he's still dynamic. You're going to have to account for him, and if nothing else, it would take a little bit of pressure off of CeeDee Lamb and maybe, shift some double coverages towards him. Look what he did for that Rams offense last year. You can't say enough about it.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't the eye-popping numbers that he was putting up, I guess, in his prime with New York, but he was a very productive receiver and a very productive offense. And coming back from his second ACL, will he be the same type player? Will he be as explosive? It's probably not, but you're talking about the veteran savvy of a guy who knows how to get open, who's a good route runner, who's got great hands, and, he's he's a winning piece. And no offense to Noah Brown, who is coming back today from his foot injury.
That's big.
That is, Odell Beckham Jr. is still an upgrade over a guy like Noah Brown. However, Noah Brown will play a factor today because, as we said, it's going to be cold. You would assume that both teams really want to establish the run today, and to get one of your best blocking receivers back in your offense today, that's not nothing.
Yeah, again, and because it takes that off of CeeDee Lamb's plate as well, and Michael Gallup, and it really kind of puts him in his natural spot. I think he's a terrific number 3 receiver. Kind of wondering exactly where he was as far as number 2, 3, or 4. He's better than a 4. I don't think he's quite a 2, but I think if you have a healthy Michael Gallup, which I don't think we have 100%
probably not
healthy Michael Gallup, which he's coming off from the same injury as Beckham, and it's also you had that much earlier than Beckham did. So we'll see how long it would take Beckham to come back. But I think they just need one playmaker back because this receiving core is almost deep again.
Yeah, it is. And
it would go a long way to erase Amari Cooper not being
And
here.
I guess in that same vein, you have to discuss the emergence of the young tight ends within this offense. And I know that Peyton Hendershot, and Dalton Schultz, and who's the other one I'm forgetting right now?
Oh, Ferguson?
Ferguson, the rookie. I mean, none of them are going to put up Pro Bowl caliber numbers, but they all have shown the ability to not only block but also make plays in this offense. And the further Dak goes as far as being healthy and playing and getting acquainted with all three, not just Dalton Schultz, that's something that we need to maybe just not just forget about when it comes to Dak's targets.
Because when you looked back to the Cowboys when they were absolutely at their best last year, those first 6 games, it was when they had multiple tight ends and those 12 personnel threats.
Right.
And they can do that again. Ferguson is giving them that. Hendershot is giving them that as well, where they can be versatile. And you know what? You also, bonus, you get nice little touchdown celebrations.
Oh, dude, the calf roping
that was the best Cowboys celebration this year, I think.
And that just gives you a glimpse into what these dudes talk about sometimes within their their own position rooms. Like, you can only watch so much film. You can only go over so many things. Right. You gotta coordinate a nice choreographed touchdown celebration.
It would be kind of funny to be a fly on the wall, like if they were in the meeting room, like Jerry walks in and he's got Ferguson's on the ground and Hendershot's trying to rope him. He's like,
hell, knowing Jerry, he would probably want to be part of the presentation.
Yeah,
he would actually leave the booth and go down to the sideline again if he knew he could be part of something like that.
Absolutely.
Cowboys take on the Packers today. This is a 3:25 kick. It's going to be on Fox. You're going to get Burkhart and third leg Greg Olsen, along with the sideline reporters Aaron Andrews and Dr. Tom Rinaldi. So the A team, and I think it's interesting how Fox, understanding where the Packers are this season, if you just watch the promos throughout the week, like say, during the World Series or any of these promos during the early games today, they're making this seem like Ice Bowl 2 or something.
They're leaning on history.
They really are, and they're showing replays of did Dez catch it, and pictures of Favre and Aikman and Emmett back in the day, and look, Cowboys-Packers say no more. We're going to watch every year no matter what, but this isn't some barn burner, just massive matchup.
You know what? It's not, but to me, it's also a game that I think Dallas needs to be really careful with. I think it is a classic trap game when everyone looking ahead to next week at Minnesota and having the injuries that have piled up on Green Bay.
Boy,
there's still Aaron Rodgers over there.
Though. But I mean, if you look, in fact,
and look at Aaron Rodgers' record against the Cowboys.
I'm going to put this up for the camera. Hopefully the people can see it. You have the Cowboys injury report this week, which is not
coming
nothing.
Off a bye.
Not nothing. I mean, you're going to be without Anthony Barr with a hamstring injury today. Malik Hooker's going to be back. But look at that Packers injury report. There's 4 dudes that are out, and a lot, and some of their key players are iffy, like David Bakhtiari, their left tackle.
Yeah, a lot of. I mean, it's and they lost it. They Rashawn Gary on the IR this week.
By the way, Rashawn Gary being out today is a massive factor. That guy's on the
Stokes.
IR with a knee, yes, but Gary in particular, 12 quarterback hits, 6 sacks, which is the most on Green Bay. And I was reading a publication this week. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but 3rd in total quarterback pressures this year.
Yep.
And that has been subtracted from the Packers defense.
He's finally turned into the player they thought they were getting when they drafted him in the first round. He's been brilliant this year, and it's sad that right when he gets there that he has this injury, and the same with Eric Stokes. I mean, I tell you what, this might be the best secondary Dallas faces all year.
Yeah, they're good against the pass. In fact, I think they were
they're number 2 against
second best yardage wise against the pass this year. Now, on the other sside of that, they're pretty terrible against the run. They're 7th worst against the run in the NFL, giving up nearly 139 per game. And at home, at Lambeau this year in the 4 games, they're giving up over 175 on the ground.
We'll talk about that as we analyze the
Sure.
enemy. I don't think that's an accident. I think they are incredibly similar to the Dallas defense.
Yeah, they are. By the way, we mentioned Zeke Elliott out today. The other Cowboys inactive today. Linebacker Jabril Cox still not playing, still inactive. You're going to get Damone Clark today. Will Grier, of course, out. And Deshaun Wright, the cornerback, out. Marquise Bell, the safety. Linebacker Anthony Barr, as we mentioned, has a hamstring issue. He's probably going to miss multiple weeks, and he's probably kicking himself because he can't play next week against Minnesota.
Yeah, that's going to hurt.
That's going to hurt. And then Chauncey Golston, the defensive end, out today. On the other side, Packers corner Shamar Jean-Charles, linebacker Chris Barnes, linebacker Devondre Campbell.
That's a huge injury for them.
That is a big one because he's a stout player. Offensive line, Rasheed Walker, Luke Tenuta, wide receiver Romeo Dobbs. That's
a hurt.
I mean, he hasn't put it all together yet. He's not totally on the same page with Aaron Rodgers yet, but of their young receivers, he's probably has the most.
He was
talent.
the one that I felt like was the closest to becoming the guy for Aaron Rodgers. You can see Rodgers going to him more, and this is a summary of the Packers season so far. Is they take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. Is that right when they get on pace? They start to build a rhythm. Someone gets hurt.
Yeah. Come together, opposites attract, as Paul Abdul once said.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, okay, so Rodgers is having a tough year, and we can maybe break this down a little bit more in a bit. But, they moved the ball last week against Detroit. I know that if you look at the box score and look at the final line of 15-9, that looks like an inept game. There was a touchdown that they nearly scored on. Then they had a couple of miscues inside the 5-yard line, one at the goal line. A really bad interception thrown toward Bakhtiari. I mean, that was a terrible interception. But this is a team that can run the ball. Aaron Jones is active today. He was a little nicked up. He's going to play. Dillon's obviously a load. So if there is a weakness to this Cowboys defense, it is against the run. And with all the elements on the frozen tundra today, I could see both of these teams really trying to run the ball, and this could be a somewhat low-scoring affair.
I definitely believe it could be a lower-scoring affair because I think that both teams have the ability to string together long drives.
Right.
The Packers' offensive line has been very inconsistent this year. They definitely have dealt with a lot of injuries. They've tried to come up with their best 5. With Bakhtiari playing left tackle. I think he's splitting carries with Tom. And Jenkins, they had, who is a Pro Bowl guard, all-pro guard. He's really one of the best guards, but he was playing tackle. I'm wondering if they're going to move him back inside now. So
yeah, maybe.
If they do move him back inside, then the run threat really gets amplified here. So we'll see how it goes out because this, to me, they can control the clock if they can put that running game together. They want to keep that offense off the field and try to protect their defense.
Yeah, and it is weird. As much as Green Bay has struggled as far as just putting up offensive points, just over 17 per game, if you actually watch these games, they're a play or two or a drop pass or a better Aaron Rodgers decision away from, I'm not saying being back to where they were in recent years under Aaron Rodgers, but still an offense that's way more productive than maybe we're all thinking right now.
Yeah, It's been bad. It's been incredibly frustrating and ugly at times because of how efficient and clean they were in the past, especially with Adams and Aaron Rodgers. But I just don't think they're as bad as what people think they are.
Yeah. All right, so we're here in the production room 3 today because we have Dallas Stars hockey on the air, on the airwaves at the moment. We're on Twitch, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. If you took the extra step to tune into us today, thank you so much. Maybe we'll hear from Bob from Lambeau in a minute. I don't know. We are definitely going to hear from David Moore in our 3rd segment today as we get a stadium report and talk about this Cowboys attack without Zeke, who is out today, once again sitting out with a bad knee coming off the bye week. So let's take a look at the Packers more in depth coming up next as we promote a few things here on the stream here on the Ticket. All right, it's 2:51 here on The Ticket, sort of, as we're streaming on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube this afternoon. Appreciate you being with us for Cowboys Countdown to Kickoff. He's David Newbury. I'm Sean Bass, talking to you till 3:25, and the Cowboys take on the Packers today up at Lambeau. And speaking of Lambeau Field, the Hardline made the trek north this week. They broadcasted there Friday. They've been there all weekend. And on our phone line right now, a man with a Green Bay Packers tattoo who is in the stands right now at Lambeau Field. It's our good friend, Bob Sturm. Bob, do you read me?
Yeah, I read you loud and clear. Hopefully you read me as well.
It's a little loud in the background, but I would assume so. Are you guys at a tailgate, or are you already in the crowd?
Well, we're kind of between tailgate and seat in the long security line, so we're going to do the best we can here.
All right, how sauced is Corby and Mino and Davey early in this early in the day?
Let's just say I've already taken the keys,
okay.
And I will make sure that they all get back to the hotel tonight. But I'm not positive they'll have some real shrewd observations on the events of the game here.
It's okay. It's good to talk to you, sir. I know you will always have shrewd observations, and I just want to ask about the vibe. I mean, I've been to a Packers-Cowboys game up there, and the scene is like none other. What's your take on the vibes up there from your Wisconsinites?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to tell in pregame. It kind of looks like a normal Packer game with a normal Packer team, and everybody is happy and optimistic. And that might last one drive, or it might last the day. Who knows? But this is game day up here. I don't know if you could tell the record of the team from the parking lots, because it kind of looks like everybody is ready to get down and have a great time doing what they live to do, which is watch this team play.
So, as you being a longtime fan of the Packers, watching the chemistry that Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers had over the years, to me, there wasn't a better combination of quarterback-receiver as far as just having a complete understanding of what the other expected. How much has that cost the Packers? And do you think that if Packers had a do-over and the Raiders had a do-over, that they would say, maybe we keep Devontae Adams?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess I've talked myself into they might go the other way and send Rodgers with them. I don't know. I don't know. I guess you could have done both. You could have done neither, or you could have done one or the other. And it would have been very difficult to say goodbye to a four-time NFL MVP and a guy who's won 2 in 2 years. And he's going to live forever, and nothing's ever going to go bad. But they made a gamble, and they signed a deal that is going to be very, very difficult to get out of. Although the more you look around the league, the more you see that there's always going to be someone that's going to take a chance on a quarterback and probably pay pretty well for him. But I assume the price for him would have been much, much higher if they would have been auctioning him off, next to Russell Wilson or something. And instead, it's not that at all. It's going to be a drastically discounted price next year, because people are going to see how bad the offense has struggled this year, and it's been pretty rough. There's no doubt about it.
Bob, I was reading earlier this week some people up there are entertaining the idea of benching Rodgers and turning to Jordan Love. How serious of a threat or an option is that at this point?
Well, I would say to those writing that or saying that, it's probably super realistic to them, but they don't matter, with all due respect. The people that matter are the people that make decisions for the Packers organization. And I would say there's roughly a 0% chance that they would bench Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Love for a number of reasons, but the most of which is, they've made this deal for 3 years, and they'll probably try to trade him in the offseason. But during the season, do they want to be the lead story across sports that they have benched? I think we saw the Giants even try that with Eli Manning,
right?
And Eli isn't 10% of the polarizing national sports figure that Aaron Rodgers is, and despite having an extra ring, I suppose. I bet you it's really getting louder on me right now. But
no, it's all good.
But I just don't think the Packers have the stomach for that fight, because if they did have the stomach for it, they probably would have pulled the plug, at one of the last few summers where he kind of showed, that he was kind of overplaying here, So it's a big soap opera, but I would imagine, barring an injury, he's going to start every game this year. And we'll see where that takes them. I mean, if they pull off a win today, which is not impossible to imagine, it's kind of close, but not impossible to imagine, then it'll be season back on. They'll have the Tennessee at home on Thursday night, and they'll talk themselves into getting back into the mix. But I think for all intents and purposes, the era is pretty much over, if you were to ask me, and you just kind of did. So there.
So we look at the Cowboys versus the Packers, actually, the matchup today, and the Packers look like they can't stop the run. But when I watch the Packers defense, it kind of feels like the Cowboys defense in some regard is that they play a lot of nickel. Are they giving up the run just because they're trying to make you earn it down the field, in your opinion? And how hard of a task is it actually for Dallas to score on this Green Bay defense?
Yeah. They actually play more dime than anybody, and it makes them very susceptible to the run. They're generally okay with that because they're trying to increase possessions in a game because they have Aaron Rodgers, and that usually makes sense. It just doesn't make sense if you can't sustain drives, and so they set up a team this year that was supposed to kind of be 49er-like. Run the ball and play great defense and have a pass rush that gets there with 4. And it just hasn't materialized like the Cowboys. So, the 2 first-round picks they got from Georgia, one of them barely even plays, and that wasn't part of the recipe. So, their pets' heads are falling off, to steal a phrase from Lloyd Christmas. Or is it Harry? It's probably Harry, isn't it? No, it's Lloyd.
It's Lloyd, yeah.
Lloyd. Yeah. Okay.
Bob Sturm live from Lambeau, joining us for a few more minutes. And we get the news that Zeke is out today with a knee injury, so it's another Tony Pollard, Malik Davis day in the backfield. How do you feel about the Cowboys going into a game where they're probably going to want to run the ball more than maybe they normally do because of the cold conditions?
Oh, I think it's a game for the Cowboys to be patient. I don't think they're going to blow it open early, but I don't think they have to. I think they can just allow their defense against the Packer offense and just kind of let that set the tone for the day. And there will be some opportunities to run the football for sure, and that's great. But really, the tone of this game should be set by the Cowboy pass rush and the ability to drop 7 into coverage and to do a pretty good job covering up the Packers receivers who don't have a great vibe about them. And if the Packers are smart, they're going to try to win a 17-14 game. But that's kind of been the recipe all season, and I don't think their quarterback likes following that recipe. He even said, during the Lions game to Aaron Andrews, Aaron said that he wants to go down firing the ball like he always has, which sounds like he doesn't actually want to follow the game plan. So running RPOs are really funny until it's just a PO every time.
Right.
There's no run option. He just if you give the quarterback the freedom to choose, which they have many years ago, then you really can't get him to do the right thing. You're allowing him to do whatever it is that he wants, and that's kind of how we got here today. So I think the Cowboys are in great shape.
Hey, Bob, how bundled are you right now?
Oh, I am well prepared. I doubled up the socks, got the tights on under the jeans, got the neck nice and warm. I will be fine. As for my possibly drunk cohorts, they're all on their own, but they've been warned, and I think they're gonna give it their best shot. We'll see. We'll see if the wind kicks up. It looks like it could a little bit, and then all bets are off for those boys.
And if we're watching today's telecast on Fox, what section should we look out for to see Hardline 5.0?
You won't see us. I tweeted our seats that they're so far up that there's very little chance a camera can, unless they're covering the flyover. Then
okay.
Just below the airplane for us.
All right. Well, Bob, dude, you're awesome. Thank you for the time today. I know you guys are going to have a blast. It was awesome hearing you guys up there Friday, and safe travels, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me, and we'll have a good time.
And there he goes. That is one member of the Hardline, Bob the Sturminator Sturm, as he and the Hardline were walking into Lambeau Field, and you could just hear the vibe and the scene going on around him.
Kind of sounds like someone stole his cheese head, though. Like, he's a little down. You can tell.
Yeah, he's Bob is a notorious sandbagger
Oh,
when it
there's
comes
no
to
doubt.
the Packers. But in past years when they were legit good and
Right,
you knew
he's
they
a-
were legit good, he would talk down about them. I think he's being actually somewhat realistic about what Green Bay is at this moment in time.
He is, but maybe that's the cowboy dog in me, where it's just like that beaten dog, where right when you expect things to go a certain way, you just are so used to getting hit.
Well, and it's weird too. I don't know how you feel about it, but looking at the current spread, and this opened up as like a 5 or 6 point spread. It's down to 3.5. So a lot of those, a lot of those Packers ghosts and memories are, I think, floating around in people's minds. And when you go up against an Aaron Rodgers, who I think is 8-1 all time against the Cowboys, including some just knife to the heart playoff comebacks late. I mean, I think that sticks in people's minds. And I do want to say this though. I feel like Dallas is a much better team than Green Bay is at this moment in time. And I think if we're all things being equal, the two teams and how this thing matches up, Dallas should win by a couple of scores today.
They should. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Dallas should win because they are healthier. Green Bay has just got so many key players out, and Dallas needs to really just put them in their place early. There is a part of me that's worried about them coming off a bye, being a little bit rusty, because, man, this team looks so hot against the Bears, scoring on 6 of 9 drives, to the point where you're like, this is the exact time you don't want a bye to happen when a team is playing that well and it's in that much of a rhythm. But hopefully they'll be able to maintain that rhythm, get out to an early start, and really play in front of this Green Bay team, because I do think Green Bay's going to want to dirty it up.
But I agree with Bob. Even though the Cowboys might not just go nuts early on and score a bunch of points like they did last week against Chicago, as that thing started looking like a bloodbath early, I think just the style of game you're going to see today, that's not going to happen. But you could still be ahead by 7 to 10 points and still be very in control of this football game.
Yeah, it definitely could be a low-scoring game, and there might be a lot of callers at the end of the game on the post game complaining about the Cowboys, because they're going to analyze the Green Bay by saying that they're not very good by just looking at their record, and really discounting how much talent is still left on the defensive side of the ball, especially in that secondary.
Yeah. I mean, this is a secondary that is hard to throw on, and yes, there are injuries today, and I think the biggest takeaway or biggest subtraction from the Packers defense is, of course, Rashawn Gary and the pass rush, but outside of that, they're okay at just about every other level, it feels like.
Right, yeah. Jair Alexander, one of the best corners in football. Rasul Douglas, who was playing in the slot when Stokes was healthy. Now he's going back outside where he's actually more comfortable. Then you have Amos at one safety, and the other safety is Darnell Savage. And so they have playmakers all around. But the Campbell injury is the one that really hurts him, because he was there. I don't want to say he's their Micah Parsons or anything like that, because he's not that type of player.
That would be a big compliment to
If
him.
anything, he's more like, one of the Cowboys safeties, because he plays
like
linebacker like a safety, and he's got these really long arms, and he can cover tight ends and cover running backs out of the backfield. So he's one of those players that has been a really nice find for them. They rewarded him with a big extension. It's too bad that he got hurt.
Well, the P1's tuned into the stream right now, hear the NFL Films music. So let's go ahead and maybe take a quick look around the scoreboard of the early action we've seen today. Of course, Cowboys take on the Packers at 3:25. We'll talk to David Moore with a stadium report coming up in just a few minutes. But the New York Football Giants, it looks like they're on their way to 7-2 as they are beating a bad Texans team 21-13. And New York remains a fraud, and they are taking advantage of a soft schedule. And I watched a little bit of this game today, and nothing that I saw changed my mind from that opinion.
It's really amazing that
Houston's bad.
The Giants, their roster is not threatening at all, but it shows you how, when Jimmy Johnson said a lot of the times the NFL is just about not beating yourself,
right?
That the Giants have done a terrific job of just doing the little things right, making, tackling, taking care of the football on offense, and letting the other teams implode. And every week they have done it.
Yep. Elsewhere in the NFC East, the unbeaten Eagles are hosting the Commanders, who come in at 4-5. That's the Monday night game, which you can hear right here on the ticket. Elsewhere right now, interesting things happening up at Orchard Park as the Bills have a 27-23 lead over the Vikings with a minute to go. It is 3rd and goal at the Buffalo 6. So Kirk Cousins, who hasn't been stellar this game, has a chance to maybe throw for the win here against a Buffalo team that did start Josh Allen at quarterback, and he has made some plays with both his arms and his legs today.
Shocked. But, man, he's one of the most fun players to watch in the NFL.
Amen.
I would hate it, absolutely hate it, if he were to go out with an elbow injury. So I haven't seen anything from this game, so I don't know if it's been a lot of dinking and dunking or if he's actually been able to push the ball down the field.
He's made some throws downfield, not like you normally expect him, but some of that is probably the conditions. You got some flurries up there.
Yeah, but that guy still
today.
throws lasers into the wind. So
He does.
I mean, he's got one of the strongest arms I've ever seen, and he. I hope he's healthy, and it looks like they're close to pulling off a good win, but Minnesota's fighting back in this game, so hats off to them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you can't count Kirk Cousins out.
No, and that's who Dallas plays next week, so we'll probably go back and really break that one down later in the week. The Titans have a 17-10 lead over the Broncos with about 3 minutes to go. Tennessee just made a field goal. Ryan Tannehill back at the helm. He's thrown 2 touchdowns today, so the Titans looking to improve to 6-3 and keeping a not-so-good Broncos team down there in Nashville. Elsewhere, this game just now getting underway, the Raiders and the Colts. Of course, Jeff Saturday, the head coach. We'll have to see how that plays out. Some finals from earlier in the noon slate today. The Lions, a wild game today. Detroit scores 21 points in the fourth quarter to beat the Bears, 31-30. Justin Fields did some good things today, but Jared Goff led that comeback as Detroit is now 3-6. Coming off a win over the Packers and the Bears. That's got to feel good for Campbell.
Yeah, I'm glad. He needed it because there were starting to be some rumblings about him losing his job. And, yeah, they're not beating any of the Giants in the NFL, but these are good wins.
No surprise, the Chiefs take care of the Jaguars today at Arrowhead 27-17. The Dolphins have easy work of Cleveland 39-17. The Steelers and the Saints played a game which I would not want to watch that football game.
Pay me to watch that.
But the Steelers doubled them up 20-10. And earlier this morning, actually a good game in Germany as the Seahawks mounted a fourth quarter comeback, but they fell short to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers 21-16 as the Bucs are back to 500.
Yeah, so look out for the Bucs as they get healthy. They might be a team that no one wants to play in the playoffs.
And in that division, I mean, we saw Thursday night the Falcons laid an egg at
what
Charlotte.
A pillow fight.
Yeah, that was a tough game to watch. So clearly the best team in that NFC South. All right, coming up next, after we get out of the way just for a moment, we will hear from one ranch reporter, David Moore, live from Lambeau as Cowboys countdown to kickoff rolls on via the internet. Well, hey there, Internet. Sean Bass, David Newbury, and one David Moore joining us live from the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field ahead of the Cowboys and Packers, which gets underway in just a little bit at 3:25. David, do you read us?
I do read you. Can you read me?
Loud and clear. You sound fantastic up in that press box at Lambeau, which I've been up there before, and I'm guessing they have cheese curds as part of the pregame spread, right?
I believe they make you wait for those until halftime.
Oh, okay.
Sean, you can't give that right off the start.
Yeah, you gotta make them work for it, right? Obviously Zeke is out. We'll talk about that. I do want to ask about the weather situation. Obviously it's cold. Do you see any chance of any sort of precipitation or wind affecting things as this game grinds on today?
They're not projecting that. It's a relatively light wind. Easy for me to say when I'm in a press box and I'm not on the field, where at the moment it is 30. I think last I looked, it was 36. It feels like 28.
Okay.
It will be cold by the time the game ends. It could be right at freezing, but this is going to be what you're seeing right now is basically what it should be throughout this game. There's no precipitation supposed to come in, and the winds are light for what can be much worse game at this time of year here.
And forgive us, David, we might be a little distracted right now because it looks like the Bills, who just had a huge goal line stand, might have fumbled inside their own end zone. As Minnesota might have recovered, and they have recovered.
They've recovered for a touchdown.
Go-ahead touchdown. This, of course, the team, the Cowboys, go to play next week up in Minnesota. So this would be an emphatic road victory over a Bills team if, in fact, they can pull it out with 37 seconds to go.
The craziest thing is there's still 37 seconds, and I think that Josh Allen has enough time to get them a field goal range.
Last year's AFC title game proved that. All right, David.
Well, just before I was watching it, just before I came here, and I was talking with some guys about wasn't that the most typical Kirk Cousins series
I know.
you could imagine?
I know.
Where here he is in a position to win a big game. Now he was tripped. You can say it was his fault or not, but sometimes things just happen to players, right? And then being stuffed. I mean, so in two plays gets nothing on that in that situation. But now. Yeah, wow, what a game.
Seeing a replay here, Josh Allen fumbled the snap on the goal line. Wow, what a mistake. All right, let's talk Zeke. Zeke has been ruled out today. How big of a surprise is this? I know he was limited throughout the week. Obviously, this is a big marquee game. He probably wanted to play, but it feels like that this might be the smart decision because as much as we love Tony Pollard, ask anybody in the room, Zeke is still a very valuable piece of this thing.
Oh, no question. And, my antenna went up when we talked to him on Wednesday, and for the second consecutive game, something I've never heard him say leading into a game, he said he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to play or not. That really surprised me coming off the bye going into this week. I think they felt he was going to make a little more progress, but this is lingering. There is no reason to push it. Here's the other thing. You look at the schedule. This starts 3 games in 12 days.
Right.
So do you want to bring him back today, and now you're going to go into next week and have 2 games in 5 days, 4 days, and are you compromising his ability to make it through that stretch? So I think they went today, and their approach today, from what I was told, was just, look, if there's any question at all, look, we're not going to do it. We liked what Malik Davis did when he worked in that last game. We're certainly happy with Pollard. We have our 3 tight ends. Let's just go.
Is there a concern? Obviously, the pitch count for Pollard in each game, but is there also a concern that they don't want to wear Pollard down before the playoffs?
Well, that's a big concern. And every time everyone says, well, why don't you give Pollard more carries, give him more carries, go back a few years and remember how much burst he lost at the end of the season when he was actually starting to be used, got nicked up some. They are very cognizant of that. And I will also say this is, and that probably goes in the decision, right? A full week of rest going into this game, and now in the 2 games in 4 days going with Thanksgiving, Zeke's going to be a bigger part of that, and he'll be fresher too, and you don't have to extend Pollard as much. I do find it interesting. It was because Skip Pete, the running backs coach, made the comment to us during the bye week that, that Pollard came up to him after that 54-yard touchdown run against the Bears and said, basically, that's it, my juice is gone, and then mentioned the 30 snap, number. Pollard this week was going, well, I don't know that I necessarily have, I could have played more. I can play more. So it's going to be interesting. I think every coaching staff that has ever used Tony Pollard has determined what the maximum usage rate is, right? Now, we may disagree with it on the outside, but from college through pros, every staff he's been a part of has determined that. And now is Tony Pollard, after that Skip Pete made those comments publicly, is he going to try to push beyond that and show, well, no, I can play longer, I can go longer, and will he, or will that create some ramifications for him going forward physically?
Yeah, is it a cardio endurance thing, or is it just that he will lose that little bit of burst that makes him special at that point?
I think it's the latter. Yeah, I think it's door number 2, that little bit of burst. He is. I mean, he is not a slacker. He practices hard, but that overdrive gear that he has that you saw in that 54-yard touchdown after the deep in a game, those seem to be gone once he has one big one. And again, it's not that he's not trying hard or he's not in good shape. It's just kind of this build and just how his his athletic level. That's kind of what it is, and what that's been determined by others.
David, much of the, national narrative surrounding the Cowboys this week, obviously going up, Mike McCarthy going home, but also Odell Beckham Jr.'s name has been linked to the team. You have, Zeke out and out saying he wants him to be, join the team. Parsons tweeting that same thing out. And we're getting reports today that OBJ is close to making a decision. What whispers are you hearing up there as all the Cowboys media is up in Green Bay? Are you hearing anything imminent?
No, not imminent. I think he has not been cleared yet either, and I think he wants to see the playoff picture clear a little bit. I think we mentioned this before that when you look at him coming in, whether it's the Cowboys or another team, you're probably looking to 2 to 3 games in the regular season and then go into the playoffs. I don't think you're going to get much more than that out of Beckham wherever he winds up this year, and so I think after Thanksgiving, after those games, I think that there are several other factors in work here too. There are other playoff teams along with Dallas he could really help, and they're interested in him. And 2, he wants to turn that into some financial security going into next year.
Sure.
So there's a lot at play here. So I think it's in his benefit to keep it open. And I will say, I do think he's probably going to get more than he would otherwise by playing it this way. So I don't think he's going to commit now. I think he's going to say, okay, let's let this go out, 2-3 more weeks. Then I'll have a better idea of the playoff picture and where it makes most sense for me to go.
I forgot that this is the first time that Dak has returned back to Green Bay since his rookie season. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, because he was hurt. He was hurt in the other one, right, when they came back, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that was kind of the game where it felt like the Cowboys really, everyone felt like, okay, they're for real.
Yeah.
Like, that they had beaten a few teams up to that point. But
that game and the Steelers game that year really felt that way.
Right. The only game
those 2.
Where
those 2 games.
Zeke had an 80-yard pass play in that one, actually, for touchdown. But the obviously different atmosphere for McCarthy and everyone going home.
Also, 10 former assistants.
Right. It is true.
Are going back. It's not just Mike McCarthy.
So how much are these players they understand how much it means to their coach. And so they're going to go out there and lay it all on the line. But at the same time, are you getting any vibes the other way from the Green Bay area that Rodgers kind of wants to play the spoiler here?
Well, certainly does. I mean, Rodgers has always been the spoiler, right? That's a big part of his personality.
Right. He thrives in that.
But, and I think this team has lost 5 games. It's certainly it's at a juncture of the season. If it didn't rise and respond today, it's hard to see how they're going to be, give themselves any sort of chance going forward. So it is kind of a last stand sort of thing. And I think that should, when you look at what Aaron Rodgers has done throughout his career, and especially against the Cowboys, winning the 7 of the last 8 games they played, I think you can go, okay, well, not so fast here. But this Green Bay team is just so beat up physically on both sides of the ball. And I just don't know that there's enough healthy talent around Aaron Rodgers at this moment for this team to pull itself out of the tailspin that it's in.
All right, David, prediction time. Does Mike McCarthy get his big revenge today?
I would say so. I would say because of the fact on the health and where they are and just the level Dallas is playing now, I think Cowboys along the lines of 27-13.
Okay, that's actually what I had 27-10 written down myself. So we are of like mind. David, enjoy Lambeau, enjoy the game today, and we will hear from you this week.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, guys.
There he goes, Cowboys beat writer of the Dallas Morning News and our very own ranch reporter, David Moore, live from the stadium. Just a few minutes here, David. By the way, the Bills are in field goal range, so they could be taking this one to overtime against Minnesota up in Buffalo today. A little distraction there as we spoke to David Moore. But I do want to thank the fine folks at Desperado's Mexican Restaurant. They feed us and have pre- and post-game show the past 11 years. They've done it again today. They got the bacon ramp shrimp. We got the brisket tacos. We got some tacos de plaza and fish tacos today. So we are going to feast on all the Tex-Mex goodness from the P1s at Desperado's Mexican Restaurant. 2 locations, one in Dallas off Greenville Avenue and University, the other one in Garland off Campbell and Jupiter. And thank you to our friends at Desperado's Mexican Restaurant. By the way, right back here on the streaming sites at halftime, you're going to get Jake and Donovan. They're going to give you the first half HSOs. And the postgame show, which is going to be over the air, Donovan, Jake, and George Jub Dunham. So we got that ahead of Sunday Night Football. So, David, final thoughts here.
Final thoughts, play a clean game for Dallas, get out to an early start, play in front of this Green Bay team, and put them out of their misery early.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, this put all the pressure on Aaron Rodgers to try to throw them back in the game, and this is an elite Cowboys defense, and just make life hell on number 12. And I think the Cowboys will be 7-2 as they enter Minnesota next week. By the way, Minnesota and the Buffalo Bills are 30-30 as that one is probably headed to overtime. So thank you so much for making the extra effort to tune into the streaming sites today. We definitely appreciate you. For Joe Lecce and EA on the other side, making everything sound good. Thanks to David Moore, and thanks to Bob for calling in. He's David Newbury. I'm Sean Bass. This has been Cowboys Countdown to Kickoff.